Hi, I'm Jamal Green, and welcome to my video. This video is basically about the failure of big government, particularly in the field of education. And this is my indictment against them. One of the greatest indictments against big government, big liberal government, is its failure to educate America's children. How can we as America expect to retain our supremacy in economics, military strength, and scientific innovation if our children continue to fall behind their international peers in high levels of math and science? According to the Department of Education's website, one of their primary missions upon establishment in 1979 was to strengthen the federal government's commitment to assuring access to equal educational opportunities for every individual. Unfortunately, they failed to achieve those objectives. The government, particularly under the rule of statists, also known as liberals, has fought against equal opportunity in education for every individual, especially for minorities. Big government has done everything in its power to keep students in failing government schools, and it appears that their allegiance is more to the powerful teachers unions rather than the poor inner city youth they claim to champion. To validate the failure of America's educational system, meaning government schools, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development released a report on the rankings of education throughout the world, and unfortunately, America did not score well. The report ranked American 15-year-olds as being 25th in math and 21st in science among more than 30 developed nations studied. This statistic should stun Americans. How can America continue to be prosperous when the next generation of adults, our future leaders, are woefully behind the rest of the world in high levels of education? It is unfortunate that today in America, 29% of this nation's children won't graduate from high school, even in the face of the Fed's continuous increases in public education spending. Big government, who claims to be the defender of minority rights and socioeconomic betterment, is one of the primary authors of the destruction we see in the minority community in the field of education. Today, nearly 50%, that's half, of blacks and Hispanics drop out of school before receiving a high school diploma. Many people fear, and I included, that alarming dropout rates in the black and Hispanic communities will have the negative consequence of creating a permanent undereducated class, and a permanently undereducated community can and will lead to a permanent underclass of an entire race of people. A study by the Alliance of Choice in Education found that 1.2 million students drop out of high school each year, which when broken down comes to 6,000 students per day and one every second. No time in recent memory has the left's assault on minority education been highlighted better than President Obama and the Democrats' decision to cut funding for the D.C. school voucher program. The program, the D.C. Opportunity Scholarship, was responsible for helping some 3,300 black and Hispanic children transfer out of D.C.'s failed public school systems and to private learning institutions that their parents chose. Now, thanks to the Democrats and President Obama, D.C. parents will have to watch their children return to the failed government-run public school systems and hope that their children come out with a sound education. Liberals and proponents of big government routinely point out their increases in education spending as proof of their sincerity to the cause of improving the education of America's children. It is unfortunate, and they've been able to argue this point. It's unfortunate they've been able to argue this point for so long, and it's only because that they've received help from the liberal media. However, one thing that is unfortunate for liberals is that history and statistics are not on their side. The U.S. Department of Education's first budget in 1980 was a mere $6.9 billion. In 2011, the department's budget is projected to hit nearly $78 billion. Yet with the massive increases in education funding, this nation's schools continue to fail. The National Assessment of Educational Progress recently tested 8th graders on their level of proficiency in various subject matters, and the results were nothing to boast about. On average, only 27% of American 8th graders scored proficient in science. Only 31% scored proficient in reading, and only 17% scored proficient in history. Whenever government overreaches, this is what we get. We get disaster. Look at the government's hand in the economy. The economy is in the toilet. The government's record of providing health care and a social safety net are also in the toilet. All of the government's plans, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, S-chip, you name it, all in the toilet, all bankrupt. These and other programs created by big government have failed to provide a social safety net for anyone. The only thing that they provided for the American people are mountains of debt. Think about it. Who truly has a safety net in a nation that has more than $100 trillion worth of entitlement debt? Most Americans have no idea that the nation is in hundreds of trillions of dollars of debt, or where the government obtains the money it spends for all these utopian welfare programs. And this, my friends, is a result of a failure to educate. My name is Jamal Green, and I thank you for watching my video.